Welcome back to iShine Connect.
It wouldn't be a Christmas TBN special without my dear friends Matt and Lori Crouch. We love you guys. Thanks for the beautiful time together. We love it.
Welcome to Southern Colorado.
Oh man, couldn't be any more beautiful. And Merry Christmas to you guys.
This is an interesting way to do a Christmas special. So what were you thinking when you put this all together?
Well, we're just studying the life of Mary and Joseph and just thinking, you know what, God's your God. You could have just had them, you know, have the baby and let everything go perfect. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when you study it, you see all the different things that had to happen. And I think sometimes you think, well, this disappointment, I must have done something wrong, or somebody's getting the best of me. But just the longer I've lived, the more I've come to realize that God's ordering our steps. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that everything's going to go perfect all the time, but faith is saying, God, I trust you even though I'm kind of in a detour or somebody came against me or my plan didn't work out. And I think it's just just coming back to a place of peace, knowing that God is, directing our steps and what God has purpose for our life. The scripture says no person can stop.
We looked up the word detour, and it's a pretty interesting word and deep, and it talks about these interruptions and all this kind of stuff. And it made me think about the actual kind of the theology that I grew up in. It would have been if you're on a detour, you've done something wrong, and then you start realizing that, the Holy Family, the Mary, Joseph, and the baby, I mean, God on earth had detours in his own life. An angel warned Joseph, and all of a sudden, there's Jesus on this detour as a baby, as a child, going to Egypt. And so if God is on detours or puts himself on detours, why would we think that we're not supposed to do it? And it was just such an interesting word to look up and kind of to get into as we were preparing for this, because a lot of the commentary that we were reading, it's like God would put you on a detour so that you would trust him more.
Yeah, it's so good because you think sometimes on these detours, well, I've missed my purpose or I've missed God's best plan. Yeah. I mean, you even go back to Joseph, not Mary's husband, Joseph, Jacob's son. You could think, God gave him the dream, and you look at all that went wrong, but it was all part of God's plan. And I'm not, telling anybody they're going to have all these difficulties. Our thing is to trust when you don't understand. Yeah. To know that as you're honoring God, he's ordering your steps, and nothing can stop you from your purpose. If you can just, it's so much easier to live out of a place of faith, a place of trust, and otherwise we're fighting everything. Oh man, this door closed. Or Joseph could have said, why'd they throw me into a pit? Or the other Joseph, why do we have to go to Egypt when my wife's pregnant? It's just, but when you come back to that place of trust, it's just a much better place to live. And two, I think we can't see God's whole plan for our life. We can just see that, I wish that door would have opened, but it didn't open. What happened, God? I worked hard for that promotion. But you don't know what God is leading you up to.
Yeah. The Bible talks about us making our plans. So we all have plans. Yeah. We have plans for tomorrow, what we want to do. But when something seems to go wrong, we all think, something's going wrong. Well, is it really something going wrong, or is God ordering our steps?
Exactly.
And every time, I don't know about you, but every time I have to get off the freeway and I've got to get on a detour, my ears perk up to Surrey. Yeah. I'm looking for signs. I am now engaged because now I don't know where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to learn to walk by faith. That's how we please God.
I know.
In those times of man, this took me by surprise. I cannot believe that I just got that diagnosis, or I can't believe that my son just did that, or I can't believe, but God knows. God knew it before we did, and it all crossed across his path before we were handed it, right?
Yeah. And it's not that God sends it all, but God's not going to allow it unless he's going to use it.
Absolutely.
And so I'm not saying that God puts all these things on us, but he does allow us, and it's for the ultimate good to get us to where we're supposed to be. Yeah. I'll tell you a real quick story. When we were in our early 20s, we had just bought this house, and we bought a townhome and we sold it. And like a month later, we get a knock on the door, and I open it. I'm 24 years old, and I'm halfway don't know what I'm doing, and there's a sheriff there. And he hands me this letter, and he says, somebody must really not like you. And I thought, what is this? And I opened it up.
Pick a number.
Yeah. So the lady that bought the house was suing us because of the plumbing. Well, we didn't build the house. She sued us and the realtor and the plumber and the builder and 50 people. But we happened to be the one that sold the house. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it was actually at Christmas time that year. And I thought, man, I'm in a lawsuit. You're 24 years old, and what do we do? Get an attorney. Anyway, long story short, we found this attorney in another state that helped us. We became good friends with him. Years later, this business opportunity came about, and I thought, who would I call that could help me with? Because it was over my head there. I said, I'm going to call my attorney friend. And I called him. He put together this deal. We bought this television station in Houston. My dad passed, and we ended up selling the station right when we needed the money to build the compact center. And I look back and I think, okay, if I hadn't have had that lawsuit, I wouldn't have met that attorney. I would have never pursued that other deal. We wouldn't have the station. And I look back and I think, okay, 10 years later, I can say, wow, I'm glad that lawsuit happened. Yeah. That was God ordering my steps. Now, 24 years old, I couldn't see it at the time. Yeah. All I thought is, oh man, you ruined our Christmas. And I've got to spend all this money, and are we going to get, I think what I'd like to do is save some people some time and heartache and worry to say, God's got you in the palm of his hand. Keep him first place. Get up in the morning and search your heart. God, I'm doing my best to please you. And not that we're not going to make mistakes, but I believe if your heart is turned toward God, he's ordering your steps. And even with Jonah, he chose to do the wrong thing, but yet God still had somebody there for him. So I just, again, like to live out of that place of trust. Hey, it may be a detour, an interruption, something you don't understand, but you got to believe God's still directing you in the detours.
We'll be right back after this short break.
For me, Christmas has always been about reaching. As a child, I would reach high for presents stacked in my parents' closet, but I was always just a little too small and I could never reach it. And growing up, there were years where gifts were just too expensive, so we would reach deep into our pockets, hoping we could afford it. And as time continued, reaching was just expected. We lost loved ones, lost pieces of our family, and we were desperate for one holiday the way it was supposed to be. But still, every Christmas has been just another thing far out of reach, never feeling tall enough, rich enough, or strong enough. Christmas has always been about reaching. But I've learned of this other thing, a gift that exists that I want to reach more than anything. There is this love, see, that is deeper than the hurts that have happened to us. A love that is greater than the dreams that we've dreamt for us. A love that could redeem who we've been, piece together our hearts, and give a second chance to us. And when this love seemed just like everything else, wrapped up, placed high, and just too far for me, God said, I'm bringing love down so you can reach. And he let his overwhelming, never quitting kind of love come down so that it was available for even the weakest of us to receive love in the form of God's son, a child who looked just like us so that he would grow up, heal lives, die for us, rise from the grave and demonstrate what real love was to us, so that new life was within our reach, so that real hope was within our reach, so that a second chance that could restore broken homes, broken families, broken hearts was within our reach. There is nothing we can do to be worthy enough for what's already come down to be given for free. Finally, Christmas, all this and every day of my life is no longer about reaching. Now it's just about receiving, holding and enjoying a love that has come down to be found within my reach.